everyone, welcome to your weekly edition of Show Me How It's Done. My name is Laura Nerbonis and I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator here in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada. So you may be able to tell from my beautiful attire what day it is. And of course we had to do a special card because Halloween rarely falls on a Tuesday for us. So I decided to play with the Bag of Bones stamp set and dies. And before we get into the card, you all have to thank my son Darius for lending me his hat because I really wanted something festive and he volunteered it, but said that I had to give it back. So I will be sure to do that. Okay, so for today's project, I'm featuring the Bag of Bones stamp, like I mentioned. It is in our 2023 holiday catalog. And of course, those are while supplies last, so make sure to grab yourself a set. There is a lot of pieces to this stamp set. There's 23 stamps in total. And if you purchase the coordinating dies, there's a whole lot of dies in there as well. So this large empty space is for my little skeleton because we're going to use him on today's card. So I can put it back because I do have that cut out, I guess. But here we go. Lots of fun features if you're a Halloween fan, and maybe you can combine it with the glow-in-the-dark paper that's in there as well. So I'm going to move this to the side, but of course you can always look at it again later and see what you'd like to create with it. So we're going to make this floating panel card today. It's very, very simple, and it's one of my favorite kinds of cards because it looks like you use a lot of different pieces, but you actually don't. It's a very space and material saving card. So to start with, we're going to need a piece of cardstock. So for mine, I decided to use, what did I decide to use? Copper clay. There we go. We're using copper clay on today's card, and we're going to cut this at 4 1/4 by 11 and put a score mark at 5.5. Now, you can tell these cards do not look identical at all, so we need to do a little bit of cutting. So if you have a trimmer, that will be the easiest thing to use right now. I'm going to bring this in, and we're going to make our first cut. It doesn't matter which side you do it on, but we're doing 2 cuts and you need to do them both on the same side. So pick one side. So the first one, we're going to go at 3 3/4. And that should leave you with this nice big section and a little one. Okay, the piece now that's still in your trimmer, we're just going to slide over and we're going to make another cut at 1 3/4. Okay, so that's giving you 2 more pieces. They're not even, so don't worry, we didn't make them even. There's a smaller one and a larger one. And now we're ready to start assembling our little card here. Okay, you will also want to cut yourself some extra pieces of paper. So the first being some very vanilla, both for the inside of your card and this little panel. So the first piece is going to be 4 by 5 1/4. And this layering piece here, this is going to be 1 3/4 by 4. And then if you can tell, I did emboss it with the stripes and splatters embossing folder. So that's a set of 2. One of them has stripes, one of them has splatters, and I used the splatters one for this because I thought it looked very Halloween fitting. Then we need some designer paper, which I realize is on the ground. So just give me a second. I need a DSP. Here we go. I had it chopped up and I didn't pick it up. So we'll need 2 pieces of designer paper. I used the Bag of Bones designer series paper from Stampin' Up's holiday catalog, and some of them you can flip over and use the other sides too. So these 2 papers are going to be identical in size. They're going to be 1.5 by 4, 2 of them. And of course, you can definitely choose other patterns and kind of mix and match with that set as well. So assembly-wise, let's do some work here. Let's start with our big base. Okay, so we've got a nice wide open space. That's going to be for our large, very vanilla piece of cardstock. So I'm using a flat adhesive. I like tape, but of course you can use seal or you can use glue, whatever you prefer. And we're just going to add that to the inside of the card. We're not stamping on it yet. Okay, we want to actually save our stamping on this card till the end, and you will see why. Get there. Okay, so we've got our nice little vanilla in here. Now this piece in the top, we're going to fold down. This is going to become part of our card. And if you've got a bone folder, you might want to give it a nice quick burnish there. Perfect. Okay, so one of your designer papers is going to go in this space. Doesn't matter which one because they are the exact same size. So just pick one of them and put some tape on the back there. And this way. Oh. Perfect. Okay, so then while you're attaching the designer paper, we can go ahead and attach it to one of these panels here. So I want you to take note of which one is smaller. So if you kind of layer them together, there should be a large one and a small one. Grab the small one, and that's what we're going to attach our second bag of bones designer series paper to. Oh, I'm running out of tape on this one. I'll have to jump up and grab a new roll, I think. So these two can layer together. Okay, now here is the fun part. This is how you're going to basically make these pieces that are just floating all in midair at the moment come together. So we're going to set our paper up with the designer series paper resting in this bottom section and this top one just folded down. So if you have like a block or something, it would actually be very helpful for you just to put that onto your pieces at the moment, because this top one keeps wanting to flip up and we actually need things to be nice and flat in order for this to work for us. Okay, so then you're going to come and you're going to grab that remaining piece of cardstock. So if you can imagine, this is the piece here. We've almost magically and mysteriously pulled it from the center, and we're going to make it a floating panel. So we're going to use dimensionals and we're going to pop this up. So before we do that, I need another roll of tape. I need that right away. Just get some fresh dimensionals because I just have a bunch of edge pieces here. Okay, your dimensionals are only going on the top and the bottom of this panel. You don't want anything in the middle because that is going to be freestanding. You want it to be able to open, and you don't want anything hiding right in here. Okay, so you want your dimensionals to be in this middle section, kind of about the top and the bottom inch of those papers. Okay, don't have to measure, but that's about all you're going to be able to use. Now, this piece is going to connect this top panel and this bottom panel. So before you set it down, just make sure nothing's shifted like that. Make sure you put it back so everything's all squared up. And then you're going to give yourself just a nice little top and bottom border and about like a 1/2 inch from that left-hand side. You can also be daring, put this on the opposite side. So it could go to the right, it doesn't matter. But now if you move your block, you should have pieces all connected via those little dimensionals. Okay? So remember that piece of white that we embossed? It is going to go in this spot. However, I have a fun little technique to show you guys. and it involves just a little messy work, but I promise you it's worth it. Okay, so you're going to grab a scrap to work on. We're going to take that embossed piece of vanilla, and then we're also going to grab one of our clear blocks. Okay, this is almost like our palette, and we're just going to do all our work on that. So take your Memento black refill, just put a dot on that palette. I had one already there before. And one of our Aqua Painters filled with water. So these Aqua Painters, if you purchase them now, they are white. Don't be alarmed. They're just new version. They have different brush sizes. That's kind of the difference. Mine are the old ones. They work just fine. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to squeeze this and squirt some of that water, mixing it with the black on my palette. And then I'm going to get my brush nice and juicy, so it's almost dripping with the liquid. Then you're just going to tap, tap, tap directly above your paper. Don't tap too vigorously because you might tap your whole desk. And then to clean these, you're just going to rub it clear onto your scrap, okay? So until this goes clear, you know there's still ink in here. And because we've picked up so much ink, it might take you a little while, or you could just rub it under cold water. But now it's changed from black inky to just water, okay? And I could now use this with a different color. Put it away. These you just rinse with water and they're good to go. So maybe set it out of the way right now though, because it's very wet. Now that you have all these splatters, you can go ahead and attach this to your card base. So we're using that double-sided tape or seal, whatever you're most comfortable with. This onto our card. So now, I mentioned earlier that we weren't stamping the beginning like we usually do, and that's because you want to know exactly where this window is on your card. If we were to all of a sudden decide to start stamping randomly, you might close your card and have half a sentiment showing or half an image showing, and it would look really awkward. So the whole part that this floating panel creates is kind of an open window for you to put some sentiment in. So once again, I'm just going to use my block and close up the half of the card that I'm not using. That way nothing's popping up and bumping my stamp on me. And I'm going to add a little sentiment. So I'm using both my black for the bats, and then I'm going to bring in basic gray for my sentiment, just so there's a little shaded difference. So I've grabbed the Eat, Shriek, and Be Scary, stamp that in basic gray. And then with my Memento black, I'm going to bring in the two little bats that are in our set and just stamp them. You could put more on the inside of your card too if you wanted. 1, 2, go. So there's your little bats. Now we need a skeleton. He's adorable. So in this set here, you can kind of build your own skeleton if you want to, using this body and then adding a bunch of limbs, but then you have to cut him out on its own because there's no die that coordinates with that, or you piece it together and you stamp this and you use the coordinating die. You stamp a leg and you do a coordinating die, and an arm, and that way you can get this really funky looking skeleton. I'm gonna just cheat a little bit. I have stamped my little skeleton in basic gray on a piece of basic white, or very vanilla, sorry, and then I cut it out using the coordinating die. So I made it quite simple for myself. I'm just gonna pop him up on dimensionals and add it to the card. 2, 3. I'm just going to put those kind of in his body. Everything else will be supported, so I don't really need to put dimensionals under the limbs. And just put right in the middle here. And there's our little Halloween version of this floating panel card. Now let's say you don't need a Halloween card because, you know, Halloween's tonight and you don't have anyone to give it to. You could make an autumn card. So I used the autumn leaves bundle, and I decided to cut out some of these little leaves using our distressed gold paper. Here's the stamp set. Here's the dies. It's missing the little leaves because they're in my cut and emboss machine right now. You could do this instead. So I used the same paper. This is still from the Them Bones paper. And these are more kind of fall colors. So I decided to make an autumn card. I really like the sentiment of the autumn teaches us that change can be beautiful, but you can also put anything you want in there. Maybe there's somebody with an autumn birthday. Maybe there's just a thank you that you want to give to, pardon me, someone else. But basically any sentiment you like can be put in this little window space. And like I mentioned, you can switch sides too. You could have moved the leaves over to the right and put your sentiment on the left. So completely up to you, and lots of different potential, just depending on what season you want to celebrate. And who knows, there might even be a version of this coming up in one of my Christmas videos. I don't know yet. It's more if I decide to keep playing with this kind of a fold. So thank you guys so much for joining me. I hope that whatever you're doing this evening, whether it's handing out candy, trick-or-treating, or even just enjoying an evening at home, I hope that you have fun, and I hope you have a wonderful and safe Halloween. See you next Tuesday for another edition of Show Me How It's Done. Bye.